When we manufacture our arrows, we start from raw shafts. And you'll notice right here, this bundle, this piece of paper right here says 55 to 60 pound spine, Sitka spruce. They're 330 to 339 grains. So what this means is each arrow shaft in this bundle has been checked for deflection, which is spine or stiffness of the arrow, like this. Each one of those is within 5 pounds of deflection, and then also it's been weighed in grain weight. So each one in this bundle is within 5 pounds of deflection or bend, and it's also within 10 grains of mass weight. So when we make a dozen arrows, such as these, each one of the arrows in that dozen are as close as possible to being exactly the same as the other arrows in that dozen. We use fine quality hand-selected raw arrow shafts. We use true flight feathers. We either use plastic nocks or self nocks. In the case of this is a cow horn nock, where it's the tip of a cow horn. It's been glued on and shaped and ground down to be the nock itself. We use nothing but high quality products and hand selected to be the premium arrow shaft and the premium feathers. And by using the premium products, we can turn out a premium finished product. One of the first things we do when we receive a large quantity of raw arrow shafts is we go through and check for quality of shaft. What we're looking for is a relationship of the grain with the linear length of the arrow. If 2/3 of the grain is following the linear length of the arrow, not spilling off to one side or the other, it's probably a pretty darn good arrow shaft. I'd prefer to have every one of them following the full length, but that's not always the way. We also check for straightness. Sometimes there'll be a little bit of a kink in there. A lot of times what you can do is just take and bend it just like that and straighten out the arrow shaft. The next thing we do is we check spine or deflection, which we turn the arrow shaft on edge like so, zero out the spine tester. This happens to be an older Adams spine tester. I've been using this for about 21 years. We put a 2-pound weight right here on the arrow shaft, and it tells us on this gauge the actual deflection or spine stiffness of that arrow. What we do is we go through all of the raw ones and we put the actual spine of the arrow shaft into 5-pound increments. We have a bin down here. We take and put them in that bin. Then after we have a large quantity of arrows that are within the same spine, we match them with grain weight using a digital grain scale right here, and we match them to within 10 grains of mass weight. So when we have a finished bundle of arrow shafts, every arrow shaft in this bundle is within 5 pounds of deflection or bend, and it's within 10 grains of mass weight. Okay, now we're getting ready to do the finish part. The finish part is to seal the moisture out, to make sure that moisture can't get into the wood. Moisture is an issue with raw wood. So what we've done here is you'll see that we've tapered the nock ends. This is where the nock is going to go. So you'll see there's an 11-degree taper on the back of the arrow shaft. And the shaft is put into this divider. And this is a setup that we do for dipping into clear lacquer, so that we can do 12 at a time rather than 1 at a time. If you're doing them for yourself, 1 at a time is fine. What I've done is I've just taken, I do that right there, and then I hang it up, and it drips into this trough, which this trough has a feeder that goes right back into the main tank. And what we'll do is we'll let those hang until they drip and they dry, and tomorrow we'll sand them again and we'll put another coat on them. Okay, as I mentioned before, one of the most important things about a wood arrow shaft is the relationship to the grain in the linear length of the shaft. If you look here, you'll see that 2/3 of this arrow shaft grain is running the full length. You'll see right here there's a little bit of grain variation. And what we want to do is we want to look at I call these peninsulas or islands here. And when we actually make the arrow to where we put it on the bow, we want to make sure that the edge grain, which is the really fine lines, are against the strike plate of the bow. Doesn't matter which side is which, but we just want to make sure, because that edge grain is stiffer than it is flat grain, like a 2x4 on edge versus a 2x4 flat. So you'll notice right here these little V's, or peninsulas as I call them. You want to think of the string of your bow splits those V's, because if that string splits those V's, the edge grain is against the strike plate of your bow. And when it goes out of the bow in paradox, it's stiffer this way than it is this way. Okay, so now that the shaft had been sealed, the nocks have been glued on, we put them into the fletching jigs like so. We have our feather that's already been pre-cut. In this case, this is the left wing. I put that into my clamp. I have my glue. I apply a thin stream of glue right here on the quill of the feather. And I apply that right here to the fletching jig. There's a magnet and a piece of steel on the fletching jig. It holds it there until it's dry. The only thing I have to do, and this is what I have this little tool, it's a dull broadhead, and I just take and make sure that the quill is nice and flat against the arrow shaft, and I let that sit until that's dry, and then I rotate it and apply another fletch. To learn more, visit our website at raptorarchery.com or stop by our store and museum in the beautiful Columbia River Gorge location of Hood River, Oregon.